Stop right there. I saw you slip something in your bag. The store manager's voice cracked across the room like a whip, sharp and humiliating. Before she could even speak, his hand flew, the slap echoing louder than the music from the ceiling speakers. Gasps filled the aisles. A mother covered her child's eyes. A teenager fumbled with his phone, already hitting record. And in that instant, under fluorescent lights and judgmental stares, a black woman in a burnt orange suit became the target of every ugly assumption this place was built to hide. Before we continue, where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. And if you believe in dignity and justice, hit like and subscribe. These stories spark change, and we are glad you are here. Now, back to her. She did not stagger. She did not shout. She lifted her chin, fingers brushing the sting on her cheek, and stood tall. Her silence was heavier than the blow. The crowd hushed, waiting for her to break. Instead, the manager sneered louder. This store does not tolerate thieves. You people always try to take what is not yours. The words dripped venom, each syllable designed to cut. A clerk laughed from behind the counter, whispering, "That card looks fake anyway." Another muttered, "Not dressed like that. She does not belong here." Ugh. She remained motionless, her eyes locked on the man who had struck her, her presence filling the space more than any raised voice could. Around her, customers shifted uneasily. Some looked away, pretending nothing had happened. Others leaned closer, sensing the air was about to split open. The woman in orange did not chase their sympathy. She carried something sharper, something that would turn this humiliation into a reckoning. She stood in the middle of the store, her face calm, though her cheeks still burned from the sting. The burnt orange suit she wore did not hide her. It made her visible, unmistakable, a bright flare against white walls and polished floors. Yet in the eyes of those around her, it was not a symbol of strength. It was fuel for their doubt. The store manager folded his arms, his chest puffed with false authority. "Look at her clothes. That is not what a real customer wears. She came in here to take advantage, and I stopped her." His voice rose so that everyone could hear. He wanted an audience. He wanted shame to stick to her like a price tag. A young cashier at the counter smirked. That card looked fake the moment she showed it. People try this all the time. His words were casual, almost rehearsed, the way someone speaks when they think the system is already on their side. Another clerk, a woman with sharp eyes, leaned closer to whisper but made sure the whisper carried. "Not in those heels. Not with that suit. She does not belong in a place like this." Her silence unsettled them. The woman in orange adjusted her sleeve, straightened the line of her jacket, and let the noise swirl. She did not bow her head. She did not move toward the exit. That composure was heavier than defiance, and the crowd could feel it. At the far end of the aisle, a teenager lifted his phone higher, the red record light glowing like a witness. "She did nothing," he muttered to his friend. But his voice was swallowed by the manager's bark. "Security," the manager roared. "Get over here. Empty her bag. Make sure everyone sees what she is hiding." A guard in a stiff uniform pushed through the crowd. His boots struck the tiles with the rhythm of judgment. He reached for her handbag as though it was already stolen property. She did not resist. She only watched, steady and unblinking, as he yanked the strap from her shoulder and dropped the bag to the floor. Gasps broke again, but this time there were whispers laced with discomfort. A woman holding a child's hand frowned deeply. A man near the checkout muttered, "This is going too far." Still, no one stepped forward. Not yet. The woman in orange remained unmoved, her presence as still as stone. And in that stillness, the air shifted. What they saw as weakness was something else entirely: patience, gathering weight, waiting for the exact moment to strike back. The guard crouched low, unzipping her handbag with rough hands. Lipstick rolled across the floor, a notebook slid open, and a sleek black pen skittered until it stopped at the base of a display shelf. The sound of her personal items scattering cut through the air like broken glass. Customers leaned closer, hungry for confirmation, hungry for spectacle. "Cheap makeup," one clerk snickered, holding up a small compact as if it were evidence. She thought she could walk out without paying. The manager bent down and lifted her notebook with 2 fingers, his expression twisted with mock disgust. "This is what happens when you let people like her walk through the front door." He raised his voice deliberately, making sure the words carried across every aisle. She did not flinch. Her hands remained at her sides, steady, deliberate. She inhaled once, deeply, as if to remind herself of every similar moment that had come before. 20 years ago in Atlanta, when a cashier demanded that she empty her purse in front of strangers after buying her first business suit. 15 years ago in Dallas, when security guards circled her in a boutique for browsing too long without purchasing. 10 years ago in New York, when a clerk accused her of switching tags because a blazer seemed too expensive for her type. Now, here again, the same playbook was being read aloud in a different voice. The crowd stirred uneasily. A woman in her 50s with silver hair pressed her lips together, her hand trembling on the shopping cart handle. A father with a toddler shook his head but stayed quiet. Everyone wanted to believe the spectacle would end quickly, that humiliation would dissolve once she was escorted out. The manager slammed her notebook back onto the counter with a loud crack. "Call the police. Let them take her away. We do not need thieves parading around pretending to be customers." The word thieves echoed like a verdict. The clerk with sharp eyes repeated it under her breath, satisfied, as if the accusation had already become truth. But the woman in orange still stood firm. Her cheek bore the mark of his slap. Her belongings lay scattered at her feet, yet her stance did not break. She bent slowly, gathering her pen, sliding it back into the notebook as if nothing had been interrupted. That single, quiet act unsettled the room more than any protest could have. The teenager recording whispered to his friend, "She is not even fighting back. Why does this feel wrong?" His phone shook slightly in his grip, the red light blinking like a warning flare. The woman in orange lifted her eyes at last, not to the guard, not to the clerk, but directly to the manager who still stood puffed with false power. Her voice, calm and low, finally entered the room. "You called me a thief. You scattered my things. You struck me in front of strangers." She paused, every syllable cutting with precision. "And yet I am still here." The silence that followed was heavier than the slap itself. The storm was gathering, and the room had no idea how close it was to breaking. The manager's face reddened as murmurs rippled through the store. His authority, once certain, began to fray at the edges. He jabbed a finger toward her as if pointing could make his accusations solid. "Do not stand there acting innocent. You are a fraud. You people always pretend until you are caught." The clerk with sharp eyes folded her arms and leaned back against the counter, her voice dripping with disdain. If she really belonged here, she would not be dressed like that. Real clients do not come in with no jewelry, no designer logos, nothing to prove she is legitimate. The guard stepped closer, his posture hard and practiced. "Ma'am, you are going to comply, or we will detain you until the police arrive." His hand hovered just above her shoulder, waiting for the smallest excuse to force her down. Still, she remained calm. Her eyes shifted slowly from the guard to the manager, then to the clerk. She said nothing. Her silence stretched until it filled the space, until the customers who had been whispering now stared, wondering why she was not begging, why she was not breaking. From the corner, a young woman in a denim jacket finally spoke up. Her voice was tight, trembling, but loud enough to carry. "She did not do anything. I watched her walk in. She came straight to the counter. She has not touched a single product." The manager snapped his head toward the voice. "Mind your own business. This is store protocol." The woman folded her arms across her chest, her lips pressed into a thin line. Protocol does not include hitting a customer in the face. Gasps moved through the aisles. The tension shifted. Some of the customers exchanged looks, unease settling heavier than before. The manager's voice rose, desperate now. "Enough. She is stalling. She thinks she can stand here and intimidate us, but she cannot. Security, take her out now." The guard reached for her bag again, jerking it off the floor and spilling the last of her belongings. Keys clattered, a slim wallet fell open. A single black card gleamed beneath the fluorescent light. The clerk bent down quickly, snatching the card before she could. She turned it over in her hand, then sneered. "This is a fake. No one like her carries a card like this." She tossed it onto the counter like trash. The woman in orange still did not speak. She simply lowered her gaze to the card resting on the laminate surface, then back to the manager. Her expression was unreadable, steady as stone. For the first time, the silence was no longer mistaken for weakness. It was beginning to feel like something else entirely, like control, coiled tight, waiting for the right moment to strike. The crowd sensed it. The air thickened. And in that charged stillness, the power in the room began to shift. The silence cracked when a voice rose from the back of the store. A young man in a faded hoodie stepped forward, his phone raised high. The red light blinked steadily as he spoke into the lens. "You all see this? They slapped her. They threw her things on the floor. This is happening right now." His voice trembled, but he did not lower the phone. The manager spun toward him, his finger stabbing the air. "Put that down. You cannot film in here. This is private property." But the young man did not move. "If this is protocol, then let everyone watching decide what kind of protocol this island," his words carried, cutting through the hum of fluorescent lights and uneasy whispers. Customers began shifting closer, some pulling out their own phones. A mother whispered, "I cannot believe this," while a teenager muttered, "This is going online." The clerk with sharp eyes hissed at the manager, "Stop them before this goes viral." The manager straightened, his voice louder now, aimed at the crowd. "She is a fraud. She tried to steal. This is not discrimination. This is policy." His tone grew sharper with every syllable, but the weight of the slap, the scattered belongings, and the visible bruise on her cheek told a different story. From the far end of the aisle, an older man with gray hair shook his head slowly. "I have been shopping here for 15 years. I have never seen someone treated like this. Never." His voice was low but steady, and customers around him nodded. The guard, unsettled by the murmurs, glanced at the manager. "Do you want me to call the police right now?" "Yes," the manager barked, his face flushed with fury. "Do it now. She is a threat. She does not belong here." The word threat cut deeper than the slap had. Customers shifted uncomfortably. A child clutched her mother's hand tighter. The woman in orange stood unmoving, her cheek stung red but her composure unshaken. She met the manager's gaze without blinking, her silence steady as iron. A young woman near the register, who had been quiet until now, suddenly stepped forward. Her voice cracked, but carried across the store. "This is wrong. She did not steal anything. You are humiliating her because of how she looks." The clerk scoffed, rolling her eyes. "Do not make this about race. This is about a criminal being caught." But the young woman shook her head firmly. "No, this is about the way you treat people who look like her." Gasps spread again, and now the crowd was divided, some clutching their carts in silence, others beginning to murmur their agreement. The teenager with the phone lifted it higher, his voice urgent. "Keep watching. This is not over. Something is about to happen." And in the center of the storm, the woman in orange did not speak, did not move. She let the accusations swirl and the crowd split. Her power was not in rushing to defend herself. Her power was in waiting, in letting the truth gather weight until it was undeniable. The manager's patience shattered. His voice boomed over the store's speakers as he slammed a hand against the counterphone. "Attention all staff. We have a fraudulent guest in the building. Security is on high alert. Do not assist this woman. She is dangerous." His words echoed through the aisles like an official decree, yet his face betrayed a thin line of panic. The clerk with sharp eyes smirked, emboldened by the announcement. She pointed at the woman in orange as if she were already convicted. "Look at her. Look at the way she stands there. Guilty people always pretend to be calm. It is an act." The guard nodded, stepping closer with squared shoulders. "Ma'am, this is your last chance. Sit down and wait for the police, or I will detain you myself." His hand hovered inches from her arm, eager for permission. Still, she remained silent. Her breath was even, her stance unbroken. She did not back away, nor did she invite the touch. She simply stared at the guard, a quiet defiance that unsettled more than if she had shouted. The customers shifted uneasily. Some whispered, "This is wrong," while others folded their arms, unsure whom to believe. The teenager recording whispered urgently into his phone, "They are trying to frame her. You can see it. She has not raised her voice once." The manager leaned over the counter, his face inches from hers. "You do not scare me with your silence. You are nothing here. You will be dragged out like every other thief." His words were sharp, each one laced with venom meant to pierce. From near the entrance, an elderly woman raised her voice, trembling with both anger and courage. "I saw her walk in. She did nothing. This is not theft. This is harassment." The manager snapped, his fury boiling over. "Stay out of this, or you will be escorted out too." But the elderly woman did not move. Instead, she clutched her shopping bag tighter and repeated, louder, "This is harassment." The word spread like a spark. A man near the checkout echoed it. Then another voice joined. The word carried until it filled the store. The clerk slammed her hand on the counter, shouting to drown them out. "She is a con artist. She is faking everything." Her voice cracked, less confident now, strained against the rising tide of dissent. The woman in orange finally moved. She bent slowly, gathering her wallet from the floor, and placed the black card neatly back inside. Then she straightened, her eyes sweeping the crowd, her silence speaking louder than the chaos. For a fleeting moment, the store felt less like a marketplace and more like a courtroom. Every voice, every stare, every camera recording was becoming part of a record that no one could erase. And still, the woman in orange had not raised her voice. She had not defended herself. She was letting the storm build until the weight of it crushed those who had created it. The breaking point came suddenly. The guard, desperate to assert control, grabbed the strap of her handbag and yanked it upward so hard that the seams strained. Her belongings spilled again, scattering across the tiles like discarded evidence. A lip balm rolled under a shelf. Her notebook flipped open. The black card gleamed once more, and this time the manager snatched it off the floor with triumph written across his face. He held it high for the crowd to see. "This is counterfeit. No woman like her carries a card like this. I have seen the scams before. They flash a fake card, pretend to belong, and disappear when confronted." His words landed heavy, dripping with certainty he did not deserve. The clerk laughed sharply. "Do you see? She thought she could trick us. She thought she could buy her way into respect. But we know better." A ripple of unease spread through the crowd. Phones recorded every syllable, every gesture, every insult. The teenager, filming, whispered to the lens, "They just stole her card. They are calling it fake. This is beyond policy. This is theft." His voice trembled, but the camera did not waver. The manager leaned closer to her, his voice a hiss. "You are finished. You should have known better. People like you never get away with it." Gasps rose from the customers. The words were not whispered this time. They were sharp, deliberate, and soaked in prejudice. A woman near the bakery counter muttered, "He actually said that out loud." A man in a blue jacket shook his head, whispering, "This is ugly. Too ugly." The guard shoved the bag back toward her feet, empty now, the contents scattered for everyone to judge. "Leave," he barked. "You are done here." The manager slapped the black card against the counter as if pounding a gavel. "Call the police," he ordered. "We will not tolerate criminals, especially not ones who think they can stand above the rules." The woman in orange did not bend. She did not beg. She lifted her gaze slowly, first to the card on the counter, then to the circle of faces watching, then back to the man who had struck her. Her voice, low and steady, finally cut through. "You accused me of stealing. You scattered my belongings. You took what was mine and called it fake." She paused, letting the words settle like stones in water. "And still, I am standing." The crowd hushed. The guard shifted uneasily. The clerk's smirk faltered. For the first time, the manager's confidence flickered, though he masked it quickly with a scowl. The woman in orange did not move another step. But in the eyes of those watching, something had shifted. The slap, the insults, the theft of her card, each cruelty had been layered, and now the weight of them was no longer pressing down on her. It was pressing down on those who had delivered them. The storm had not passed. It was about to break. The manager slammed the black card down again, harder this time, as if he could beat truth into existence. "This is worthless. You are worthless. Security, call the police and have her escorted out in handcuffs. Let everyone see what happens when liars walk into my store." His words rolled like a verdict, but cracks of doubt were spreading through the crowd. The woman in orange reached slowly into her blazer pocket. She did not rush, did not tremble. Her phone slid into her hand like a weapon sharper than any blade. She lifted it to her ear, her voice calm, controlled, measured. "Activate protocol." The line clicked, and a crisp female voice responded without hesitation. "All systems ready, ma'am. Do you want me to log this as an incident?" Every word carried across the store. The clerk froze mid-smirk. The guard hesitated mid-step, and even the manager's hands twitched. She spoke again, her tone steady. "Log everything. Timestamp this moment. Record every word, every action." "Yes, ma'am," the voice on the other end confirmed. "It is logged." The teenager filming gasped audibly. "Did you hear that?" she said, "ma'am, like she knows her." His voice carried into the live stream, comments pouring in with disbelief and growing outrage. The manager leaned closer, his fury struggling to mask his unease. "You think calling someone on the phone scares me? I have seen your kind bluff before. You do not scare me." Emma, her gaze did not waver. "I am not here to scare you. I am here to remember. Her words were quiet, but they landed with the weight of thunder. From the corner, the elderly woman who had spoken earlier clutched her bag tighter. She is not bluffing, she murmured. Look at her. She is too calm. She knows something. The guard shifted again, uncertainty creeping into his stance. Sir, maybe we should check the system. What if she really— The manager cut him off with a bark. Silence! She is nothing but a fraud. People like her do not own cards like this. People like her do not own anything. Gasps spread like sparks across dry wood. Phones captured every syllable, every flicker of venom in his tone. The man in the blue jacket muttered loudly, "He is not even hiding it anymore. This is racial." His words hung in the air, undeniable, recorded forever. The woman in orange lowered the phone from her ear, her calm intact. Her presence grew heavier, her silence sharper. She was not rushing, she was building. Every insult, every accusation was being stacked like kindling, and when she chose to light it, the fire would consume them all. The manager straightened, mistaking her stillness for surrender. He smirked. That is what I thought. No more words, no more lies. Now get her out. But the crowd could feel it. The stillness was not defeat. It was power coiled tight, waiting for release. And the release was closer than anyone realized. The store's tension coiled tighter, every second pulling the air closer to rupture. The woman in orange finally lifted her chin. Her eyes swept across the crowd, then locked back onto the manager who still clutched her black card as if it were a weapon. Her voice entered the room, steady and deliberate. You believe I am nothing. You believe I do not belong. But what you do not know is that this place, this very store you stand in, exists because of me. She let the words hang, calm but heavy. You just slap the woman who owns this chain, and in 2 minutes, you will regret every word you have spoken. The store froze. For a breathless moment, even the hum of the lights seemed to stop. The clerk laughed nervously, her voice thin and brittle. She is lying. That is impossible. Do not listen to her. But the teenager's live stream was already filling with comments. She owns it? One voice typed. This cannot be fake. Look how calm she island. Another comment scrolled across. If she is bluffing, why do they look nervous? The guard, who had been so quick to reach for her arm minutes earlier, now shifted his weight uncertainly. His eyes darted from the phone still in her hand to the expressionless calm on her face. Sir, he muttered to the manager, what if she really is who she says she is? The manager's face flushed deep crimson. Do not be ridiculous. People like her do not run companies. She is playing you all. His voice cracked under its own strain, and the words sounded weaker than before. From near the entrance, the silver-haired woman who had spoken before raised her voice again, stronger this time. She told you who she island, and I believe her. Her statement cut through the uncertainty like a blade. Heads turned, whispers built, and the atmosphere tilted further away from the manager's control. The woman in orange did not rush to add more. She let the silence settle, let the weight of her revelation push deeper into the cracks already forming. She was not fighting for their approval. She was giving them the chance to decide where they stood on the side of arrogance or on the side of truth. The teenager's voice shook as he addressed his stream. She just said she owns the chain. If this is true, this is history happening right here. His phone panned across the tense faces, capturing the collective doubt and the growing recognition that everything was about to shift. The manager's hand trembled as he slammed the card against the counter once more, trying to reclaim dominance. If you own this place, prove it. Right here, right now. Her reply came with no hesitation. I will. And when I do, every person in this room will remember who stood against me and who stood with me. The weight of her words pressed down on the store like a gathering storm. The reveal had begun, and nothing could contain it. The color drained from the clerk's face as the woman in orange's words sank in. The customers who had been frozen in place now stirred, shifting their weight, exchanging glances. Whispers rippled like wind through leaves. She owns it. Could that be true? One man muttered. A teenager filming whispered to his live stream, This feels real. I think she is telling the truth. The manager's bravado faltered, but his pride would not let him stop. He slammed his hand on the counter, his voice cracking with forced authority. She is lying. She has to be. Do not listen to her. I run this store, not her. The guard, however, did not move. His hand hovered uselessly by his side. his earlier confidence drained. He looked from the manager to the woman in orange, his uncertainty written across his face. "Sir, if she is telling the truth," his voice trailed off, heavy with doubt. The silver-haired woman near the entrance stepped forward, her voice rising with conviction. "I believe her. I have been in this store many times, and I have seen how you treat customers who do not fit your idea of wealth. This time, you went too far." Her declaration emboldened others. A young mother holding a child whispered fiercely, "This is wrong. We are watching injustice happen in front of us." A man in a blue jacket nodded sharply. "I am done shopping here if this is how people are treated." The crowd was no longer silent spectators. They were becoming a wall, a chorus of judgment. Phones were raised higher, angles adjusted to capture every detail, every word. The clerk tried to salvage the crumbling control, her voice trembling now. "Do not be fooled by her calm. This is a trick. She is trying to play us." But the customers were no longer listening to her. Their eyes were fixed on the woman in orange, whose silence carried more weight than the clerk's frantic denials. The manager's voice cracked again as he shouted, "Enough! You are all being manipulated. She is nothing but a fraud." But even as the words left his mouth, his expression betrayed fear. His authority had slipped. The crowd did not believe him anymore. The woman in orange lifted her phone once more, pressing a single button. Her voice was calm, almost soft, but every syllable cut through the tension. "Begin internal verification. Cross-check ownership credentials. Log every staff member's behavior for audit." A voice on the other end responded instantly. "Verification initiated. Systems live. Recording complete." The manager's lips parted, but no words came. He had wanted proof. Now the proof was beginning to unfold, and it was out of his control. The room shifted. Customers stepped forward subtly, no longer siding with authority, but with dignity. The air was no longer filled with the manager's command. It was charged with anticipation, with the certainty that his downfall was minutes away. And at the center of it all, the woman in orange did not raise her voice. She did not move more than an inch. Yet her power filled the store, undeniable, unstoppable, and absolute. The manager's face turned pale as the voice on the phone confirmed the verification. His confidence, once towering, now cracked like glass under pressure. He tried to gather himself, gripping the counter as if it could anchor him. "This is not possible," he stammered. "She is bluffing. She has to be bluffing." But the clerk's eyes darted nervously toward the glowing phones surrounding them. "Sir, what if she is not?" The words slipped out before she could stop herself. The guard shifted uneasily, taking a slow step back, as though distance might protect him from the fallout he could feel approaching. The woman in orange finally raised her phone again. Her voice was steady, deliberate, and sharp. "Terminate the manager. Terminate the senior clerk. Terminate the guard. Effective immediately." For a breathless moment, silence blanketed the store. Then, through her phone, the crisp voice returned. "Confirmed. Their access credentials are revoked. Logging incident for legal audit. Terminations processed." At once, the guard's earpiece crackled, then went dead. He tapped it frantically, but no sound returned. The clerk's register screen blinked, then locked her out completely. The manager's keycard, clipped proudly to his belt, buzzed red and went lifeless. Gasps erupted from the customers. A man near the bakery whispered, "Did you see that? She just shut them out." A teenager shouted to his stream. Their badges stopped working. "She actually did it. She really runs this place." The manager's hands shook as he yanked the card from his belt, waving it wildly as if the plastic itself could restore his authority. This is a mistake. Reset the system. Do you hear me? Reset it." His voice cracked, echoing desperation instead of control. The clerk's face drained of color. "Sir, I cannot even log in. It says unauthorized user." Her words landed like nails in a coffin. The guard stood frozen, his posture collapsing. He was no longer a figure of authority. He was a bystander in uniform, powerless. The woman in orange let the silence grow. She did not smile. She did not gloat. She simply allowed the reality to settle over the room, heavy and final. Then, she spoke once more. "You called me a thief in a store I built. You struck me. You humiliated me. And now, you are finished." Applause broke out from the back. A single pair of hands clapped. Then another joined, until the sound grew into a wave. Customers raised their phones higher, capturing not just a confrontation, but a reckoning. The manager stumbled backward, his voice lost in the noise. He was no longer the authority in the room. He was the example, the warning, the proof of what happens when prejudice disguises itself as policy. And in the center of the storm, the woman in orange remained steady. She had not raised her voice. She had not begged for dignity. She had simply taken back what was always hers. The store had become unrecognizable. What had begun as humiliation had transformed into a tribunal, and every witness was now a juror. The manager's voice was gone, drowned out by the steady rhythm of applause and the hum of recording phones. The clerk pressed herself against the counter, her eyes darting, searching for escape. The guard stood stiff, his arms limp at his sides, a man stripped of purpose. In the center stood the woman in orange, unshaken, her presence commanding the space with quiet authority. She did not need to shout. She did not need to move. Power radiated from her stillness. She lifted her phone once more, her voice calm, deliberate. Mark this incident closed. Proceed with permanent record filing. Notify Human Resources to lock out their names. Effective immediately. Confirmed, came the crisp response through her phone. Records filed. Access revoked. Notification sent. The manager sank into a chair behind the counter, his head in his hands. The badge that had once granted him authority now hung lifeless, a strip of plastic with no more power than a broken receipt. The woman in orange stepped forward. She did not raise her voice, but each word was a blade. You mistook silence for submission. That was your last mistake. Gasps spread through the room. Some customers cheered, others wiped away tears, but all of them felt the weight of justice settle heavy and undeniable. The teenager with the phone whispered to his stream, "She did it. She actually did it. She took back everything they tried to strip from her." The silver-haired woman placed a hand over her heart. "Dignity," she whispered. "This is what dignity looks like." Heh. The woman in orange turned her gaze across the crowd. Her words now meant not just for those who wronged her, but for everyone watching, both inside the store and across countless screens online. You thought I did not belong. You thought I was less. But I built this place, and I will never again let voices like yours erase me. The store fell quiet. Even the children, even the teenagers, even the most skeptical customers knew they were standing in the aftermath of something larger than one confrontation. This was not only about a slap. It was not only about a stolen card or a scattered bag. It was about history repeating itself and finally being broken. The woman in orange gathered her belongings piece by piece, sliding her notebook back into her bag, her black card resting safely once more in her wallet. She stood tall, her chin lifted, her presence unshaken. As she walked toward the exit, the customers parted like water around a stone, their eyes following her with respect. Some clapped softly, some held their phones high, but all of them knew they had witnessed the end of arrogance and the beginning of accountability. At the threshold, she turned once more, her voice low, carrying farther than any shout could. Remember this moment. I do not need to record it. I am the result of it. And with that, she stepped into the daylight, leaving behind silence, shame, and the undeniable proof that justice does not always roar, it stands, it waits, and when the time is right, it strikes with absolute precision.